Hey everybody, TacticAngel here, back on a PlayStation 4. This one is actually going to belong to Hans-Olo. I feel like that name sounds familiar. In any case, he's going to be on North, and we're going to be in Gneisenau. As this battle gets going, I will go ahead, put his commander up on the screen real quick. This is a high accuracy build. Not the type of build that I would usually use, but always good to see a little bit of variety. And Hans is going to try to show us exactly how he likes to use the Gneisenau as he rolls out towards A. Overall, Gneisenau kind of one of the most German of German battleships, if only because it kind of has a reputation for not being able to hit anything. I think Hans is trying very, very hard to help the Gneisenau hit everything that it possibly can. Here you can see, obviously, he enjoys this ship. He's got that permanent camo on it. Looks pretty sharp. Immediately, we are confronted with a Dallas, and the very real possibility that he's going to spend most of the game on fire. But we've got a couple of other ships over here as well. We got a Miyoko and another Gneisenau. Nice hit there on the Miyoko, and of course, it looks a little bit like those two are going to push in pretty aggressively. So you see, Hans is making a little bit of a tactical retreat here. Probably a good idea because it's going to give him some shade versus the Dallas and the HE spam. Trying to get these guns under control. Only one hit, but it's a nice big hit. Now my sense is that those torpedoes are probably not going to get anybody unless he's expecting an extra somebody to be coming around that corner. Overall, probably don't want to push quite that hard in a Miyoko under normal circumstances. And with a nice big hit, Hans does manage to finish off that first cruiser. Now, though we didn't get to see it, Hans did have a pretty well-aimed shot there on the enemy Gneisenau. We walk away with just one hit and an overpen for very little damage. That's pretty much the Gneisenau for you. Now, personally, I lean in towards driving as close as I possibly can to try to fix that accuracy problem. Obviously, with Hipper, you can do a little bit to help your ability to hit things that aren't immediately in front of you. That's a nice heads-up play. Working in that back turret, because otherwise he wouldn't have been using it at all. We got some choices here. York, organized now. Both of them are presenting pretty good angles. I would probably choose the Gneisenau personally, just because it's a little bit closer. Unfortunately, doesn't walk away with too much on the York. And while swinging his back turret around, good idea. Somebody else does finish off Gneisenau. There's that Dallas again. I do agree with this decision. You see the York is out there presenting something of an angle. And certainly at this range, it's going to be really hard to hit him with the Gneisenau, even with full accuracy. Instead, he sends some shells over on the Dallas. All we walk away with is an overpen. That's not uncommon with the Dallas. You either manage to do terrible things to it or virtually nothing at all. A little bit more standard Gneisenau accuracy there. Landed 2 shots in front and 4 shots behind. Probably a good indication that that was a reasonably well-aimed shot. You know, you just kind of like take the average. Unfortunately, you know, horseshoes and hand grenades. In any case, the York is, let's say, looking for greener pastures. And he's so far away at this point that he can pretty much choose whether or not he wants to engage, because his concealment is high enough that, you know, he's just not seen. Unfortunately, or fortunately, he does decide to immediately engage, which is a curious decision. And at this point, I think Hans is doing the right thing here. It's really kind of a bad idea to chase people around on the outside of the map, particularly on domination maps where, you know, you want to actually get in there and try to control some of these bases. Running around after that guy, particularly since the York is a little bit faster than the Gneisenau, not very much actually, but more than likely could at least keep its distance from this battleship for long stretches of time, unless it specifically wanted to engage Hans. Instead, the Gneisenau is heading for the area of the map where it's going to be a lot better at engaging the enemy. And that is in the middle of these reasonably sizable islands. Islands are a big thing for ships like this because as much as possible you want to shield your approach until you get into range where, in this case, both your guns, which, you know, you have a pretty limited number of on the Gneisenau, and the torpedoes, which are a lot more dangerous, are actually in range. And if you can keep all your hit points by the time you get there, you usually end up with a good game. In any case, it looks like that York was not taking the Gneisenau seriously enough. I know oftentimes when I'm 13 kilometers away, I just assume he's not going to hit me, but Hans walks away with a nice citadel there. Now you can see he's working even more inside these islands. I don't think there's a lot of chance that those torpedoes are going to do much for you because they only have a 6-kilometer range. Hans gets a tap on Ismail, so resets the cap. And at this point, actually, Hans probably should be turning a little bit more in. Because as he's poking out on this Zinnup, there's a good chance he's already gotten that guy's attention, and shells are incoming. Just oof. Zinnup is not a ship you want to be taking those sorts of hits from. You want to be presenting probably an angle like this, if at all possible, so that when that Zinnup is looking at you, you're presenting an angle that is attractive enough that he's going to try to go in your side armor, but that's steep enough that it is going to force some bounces. And that's sort of a Scharnhorst and Gneisenau specific thing, because the weak front bow armor most battleships you're going to meet can go straight through the front of your ship. He takes just about one of the biggest hits I've seen Gneisenau ever take. In any case, we do see he is pushing into the base. Unfortunately, he was not able to keep the enemy from capping it. Kind of a weakness of Gneisenau, you just don't have enough guns to keep the heat on these ships, and obviously you don't have the accuracy either. But now Gneisenau is in its native habitat. We do see a well-aimed set of torpedoes there. See a relatively well-aimed set of shells, but no cooperation from the gunnery commander. And now, he's getting closer and closer to this Fuso. The angle that he's presenting to the Fuso right now is very, very good. It's getting a little wider, but he's not offering up too much right now. Manages to disable a front turret, which is going to help his survivability nicely. In this case, I think it was just luck, but, well, really, if you hit anything in the Gneisenau, it's kind of luck. That looked a little bit more intentional. We have another disabled turret. And by this point, the Fuso, he's just too close to this German battleship, and he eats some torpedoes. And that's another one of those successful sort of charges that you get in a German battleship, proving that that brawling is really probably the most fun of anything you can do in the game. And that has left just the York way out there in God's country. And a little bit of practice with some long-range gunnery. Honestly, sometimes I wonder if you're not just better hip-firing these 15-inch guns. And it should not be surprising at this point that Hans is going to sail on to a victory. The only question is, can he survive the last few seconds? He does land a shell on that York at the very end, finishes him off, and walks away with the victory. 3,243 base XP. Very nicely done, sir. And even in a game like this, it's always good to look back and see the little things maybe that could have been done a little bit better. In any case, thank you, Hans, for sending this over to me. Thank you, everybody, for watching, and I will see you on the next one.